Last day, last session. Are we having a good time? Thank you. Come on, a little bit louder. Make them jealous over there on the other stage that they're not here. Come on, do it. All right, thank you, thank you. I am Lindsay Troxel. I'm the founder and head coach at Our Coaching Initiative. We are a value-add platform for financial advisory firms that are looking to add fractional life coaching services for your clients, okay? So we offer life, career, retirement coaching, along with a lot of marketing materials and branding materials for you. This is my dear friend and colleague, Andrew Smith-Lewis. Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey there. We requested, by the way, the last session on the last day, because that's where the true veterans, the true warriors of Future Proof come out. And obviously, you're all here, so thanks for being here. My name is Andrew Smith-Lewis. I run a firm called Ally Studios. We are an AI venture studio. Part of it is a labs and engineering group. We help fintech, education, and entertainment companies navigate the risks and opportunities with AI. We also invest in AI projects, mostly spun out of our lab. I'm a recovering wealth management person. I spent 3 years running innovation for an alts platform called Case, and learning this tribe, which I love, and I'm delighted to be here to have this conversation today.
Me too, me too. Well, we are gonna have a conversation because we can, right? If you've got questions, please let us know what's on your mind in terms of this idea of AI and coaching and being the CEO or leader of the next decade. When I think about the opportunities that are at your fingertips and the things that are being thrown at you, I mean, you've been hearing a lot of new ideas all over this conference. And so in order to be that leader of the next decade, you're going to have to sift through some of that noise. You're going to have to pay attention to the things that matter for you and your business and your team, and you're going to have to filter out the stuff that doesn't make sense. And so what we wanted to talk about today is really that intersection, that human connection between coaching and AI. How many of you use a coach? A couple of you, okay, fabulous. How many of you are using AI? Okay, super curious. What is the thing that you're using AI for right now? Sorry? Financial planning, okay. What else? Say it again. Marketing, yeah, of course. What else are you using it for? Clients, how? Compliance, yeah, ooh, that C word. And client, okay, all right. What else? Focusing your scrambled thoughts. Okay,
ooh.
Love that one right there.
Yeah.
Coaching and AI in this intersection, right? It comes down to managing your mind more effectively. If you want to be a better leader, if you want to get better results for you, your business, your team, your clients, you need to pay attention to managing your mind. Our thoughts generate our feelings generate our actions, and our actions get our results. You want better results, you need to be thinking better thoughts. And that comes down to when you're thinking about changing up your business and how to leverage new technologies and what you're going to do. So you've got to ask better questions of yourself, and you need to ask better questions of the tools that you're using. And so that's one of the things that we're talking about today. Managing your mind more effectively so you can take advantage of all of the new things that are happening around you and silence the noise. So Andrew, can you tell me a little bit, if we were to focus in on some key things here, we're going to talk about how you as the leader can be leveraging AI and coaching more effectively, how your team can use it, and then your clients. Help me understand a little bit about how you as the leader of a firm could be thinking about the intersection of coaching and AI.
Sure. So I've spent nearly 2 decades working at the intersection of some early narrow AI and machine learning and cognitive science, neuroscience. I've got about a dozen patents in the field. And honestly, right now, I'm learning new things about AI every day. We are in an incredible exponential function in terms of growth. And I get some of my best ideas from my Instagram feed. Honestly, I see things that my researchers aren't even picking up. There are new tools out there. So keeping up with this is incredible. You do not have to be an AI expert, and none of us are, in order to really up your game. And I think a lot of this comes from transferring the agency of control to yourself. You have to take responsibility and ownership for how you look at the world about AI. And that comes through experimentation, that comes from reading, that comes from just understanding that we're all in this together, and you can learn a lot by just messing around with certain tools. There's a lot of people selling AI stuff out there, and there's some really good tools out there, and we've seen some stuff today. Personally, I think it's very early days. People are sprinkling AI magic and pixie dust on top of all sorts of solutions. I think before you do any of that, y'all are experts in your own business. No one's going to tell you what AI can do for you. You've got to get an understanding and start to form a thesis for yourself about what AI could do and excite the possibilities, and then find solutions for that.
I love that. And I think that as the leader of the business, right, being curious, just being
Absolutely.
super curious and asking those better questions of yourself, knowing what it is that you want to create. You know, I don't know if any of you have ever seen me speak at a conference before, but one of the things that I always used to say is, as a coaching consultant, when my clients would call me, I was always the smartest person in the room, not because I had all of the answers, but because I was using this magical tool called Google.
Google.
It's Google.
Google.
Yeah. So they would call me, ask a question, I wouldn't know the answer, but I would go to my trusty little Google and I would type it in and I would get returned information and sometimes videos that would show me how to do what they were asking me to do. And then I'd turn around and I'd write an email back and be like, hey, this is the answer to the question that you were asking. And I think that that is so important for us to think about as leaders. If we're more curious and we just try, right? If we go back to this idea of managing your mind, if your brain is offering you a thought of like, I don't know how to do this, or this is going to be hard, or this is a waste of my time, or whatever that tiny sentence is in your brain, what do you feel when you think I don't have time for this? What is the emotion that you experience when you are thinking I don't have time for this? Stressed. Okay. Any others? Excited? Frustrated. That's a little bit different from excited. Yeah, fair. I feel overwhelmed, right? When I'm thinking I don't have time for this, or I don't know how, if I'm thinking that, then I get frustrated and I'm a little bit fearful and I avoid doing things, right? So the way that you feel dictates what you do or don't do. And so my clients were just thinking thoughts like, I don't know what to do next, and therefore not taking the action of trying something. And that's what you need to do with AI, is you need to be courageous enough and curious enough to go and start playing around with this and seeing how it's going to be applicable for your firm.
I agree 100%. How many of you are raising little people, small humans? Okay, so if your small humans are of the age where they're getting access to the internet, these are great little people to be curious with, because kids are incredibly curious. And I learn a lot from hanging out with my 12-year-old and playing with AI. So you don't have to think about this solely in the context of you're in the grind, you're in the day, and you're like, do I send an email with ChatGPT or not? But take some time to play with your kids and say, hey, tell me about this. What's interesting? What have you seen this do? And you will be really amazed at the inspiration you'll get from interacting with your kids on AI and supporting that curiosity.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your team. What do we need to be thinking about in terms of this intersection between coaching and AI for your team? First thing that comes to my mind, Andrew, is reskilling, and this concern that I think a number of people have around potentially losing some of their roles and responsibilities to AI. And so how do you think about reskilling as it pertains to your team and being able to coach people through that experience?
How many of y'all think maybe the robots are coming to get us at this point, and either us or people on our team will be out of a job? I see some no's. Anybody existential concerns? Right? Y'all who aren't raising your hand, you're just lying, because you've got to be concerned about AI. It's phenomenal, and this is such early days. This thing is a toddler right now, and very soon it's going to be running around, and it's going to be taller than us, and things are going to get very interesting. Personally, I don't believe that it's going to have negative impact, and I think the industry we're in, we're not going to see that, but you've got to be thinking about how AI can support your team, right? So imagine giving a 150, 160 IQ assistant to everyone on your team. that can support their efforts. What does that really mean? And I think about it, when I talk to companies, I think about 3 distinct buckets, 3 lanes, right? There's the productivity lane. How does your team get more leverage using AI? And what does that mean? There's the insights lane, right? How do you derive more insights about your business, perhaps about your clients, using AI? Still very internal. And then there's the profitability, seeking alpha. How do you start to use AI to go after creating revenue? And I think you can walk, crawl, run. But if you start to think about providing this assistant to your team and freeing up the humans to do what humans should be doing, you're going to get a lot of leverage.
Yeah, and I think that human piece is so important, right? We want to be focusing on human-first applications. And so when I think about it from a coaching perspective, I think about, focusing in on your team and asking it questions, asking the AI. Let's just say you're using ChatGPT and nothing else, right? You can go and get so much value out of the free version of ChatGPT and ask it questions like, I'm having this particular issue with this team member. They've been, showing up to late work. They're not responding to client requests in the way that we're hoping, and provide it the context of what's going on. Help me devise 5 open-ended questions that are going to help me develop this particular team member, right? And that doesn't mean that you then blindly accept this information. You use your knowledge, you use your intellect, you focus in on what it is that you think is going to be applicable, and you go from there. Right?
Can I riff on that for a second?
Please.
How many of y'all know that ChatGPT makes stuff up, right? What's the fancy word for that? Hallucination. I love that word. It's like, oh, it hallucinates. It's not lying, it's hallucinating. And there's a whole argument for why hallucinations they're not lies, right? So early on, if you asked ChatGPT or you asked one of the earlier models, when did Tom Hanks go to the moon? The model would say 1973. And you'd be like, Tom Hanks never went to the moon. But in the model's training, it knew about Apollo 13, the movie. It knew Tom Hanks was in that movie, and it knew Tom Hanks went to the moon. So it's not lying, it's hallucinating. Now, you may not want to get facts out of ChatGPT, but it loves to do what Lindsay just said. It loves to play the game with you of either role-playing or scenarios. Hey, I've got this thing going on. Here's my scenario. I need some advice. It loves to do that, and you want it to kind of think outside the box a little bit there. That's how you get great ideas. So that's a really good use of the IP.
Yeah, I think that you want to see your blind spots.
Yeah.
You want to be able to know there are going to be times where you have your own biases. I mean, I also think about it from a team perspective. If you're hiring somebody new, right? I just was hiring somebody for one of my clients and going through the entire interview process. And there are certain quirks about this particular advisor that I was trying to, find him an executive assistant. And I put some of that information in there, and gosh, it returned amazing questions that I could be asking the candidates to ensure that they actually had the skills that I was looking for that were going to mesh nicely with this particular individual. And so having, again, that coach by your side along the way, you can ask it, how do I become a better team leader? How can I be supporting the mental and emotional needs of my team more effectively? How can I help them communicate more? So there are so many applications that I think that will help you be a better leader and help lead a team.
And this is a shift from what we're all used to. We're all used to engaging with information through the Google by asking what questions. But how questions are not great. How questions, sometimes you get great videos. But ChatGPT, I would say stay away from the what so much and think about the how. And those how questions with ChatGPT, you got a lot of room to learn and grow.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your clients as well. How many of you are engaging in more challenging conversations with your clients than you ever have before? Yeah. There's some pretty deep stuff that clients are bringing to the table these days, and we aren't all necessarily ready to take on some of those challenges. And I highly recommend, always be outsourcing to an expert. Okay? If you have the need to refer somebody out to a therapist and you don't particularly have those skills in-house, do so, right? They're coming to you for a very important reason, but you're going to get more and more as we continue forward. That intersection between wealth and health, those walls are breaking down. So in terms of the way that we can leverage AI and this idea of coaching more effectively with our clients are, similar to what we've talked about in leadership. But Andrew, do you have some thoughts here in terms of how, I know I want to talk a little bit about the client experience and...
Yeah, I think, first off, let's talk about sort of, so we talked a little bit about productivity, the insight side. So using these tools to gain insight about clients. So what y'all don't want to do probably is put PII into ChatGPT.
Absolutely.
The reality is it's like dropping ink into the ocean out there. You're not going to get those molecules back, but it's just bad hygiene. And if you're in a larger firm, compliance will have a heart attack. So you can depersonalize information. You need some advice about something. You can describe certain things without giving away names and positions. So there's a little bit of that. A better way to take advantage of that is there's some databases that you can stand up or find organizations where you can have safe, secure data that never goes back to ChatGPT. And there you can start modeling. You can start giving it some information. And again, internally, we're not talking about exposing this to clients, but you can have internal teams talking to your data about your clients, asking how questions. And that's a first really interesting step to start to get some insights and ideas prior to engaging with a client.
Yeah, I think about a very specific situation where I was working with an advisor recently, and he was having challenges with one of his clients who is entering retirement, perfectly covered in terms of the financial situation, so they're ready to go, they can start spending down. But this particular client was hesitant to do so. Have you ever experienced that? Yeah, happens all the time, right? They've got a lot going on. So he was really struggling to figure out what questions to ask. And again, we sat down, we described the entire situation, boom. Couple of different things that he didn't think of before. And so it just gives you additional perspective to build out those scenarios and help you to enrich your own skill set. Again, comes down to being curious though.
Yep. I think another thing that you can start to play with, do any of you use something like Fireflies or Otter? They're these tools that will sit through meetings. Fireflies is a good one, cloud-based, secure, lots of investment behind it. You basically invite it to a meeting, and it sits through a meeting very quietly. But at the end of the meeting, it gives you a really great transcript. It gives you the full transcript, gives you some sentiment analysis, gives you some summaries. What I do is I take those transcripts and I throw them into our own system, but you could throw it into ChatGPT, you could throw it into Claude or another model, and you could clean it for, obviously, names, and then you could say, hey, I want to talk about how that meeting went. What are you noticing that maybe I didn't notice? I'm seeing some hesitancy, I'm seeing some fear about this or that, give me some advice. And so that's a way to kind of hack together a couple of things, very low cost and low risk, to start to get some insights from the data and interactions with clients.
Yeah, another way that I was just thinking as you were saying, taking that information, downloading it, and then uploading it to help you discern what's the right next step to take. I like taking the videos that I record and put out onto social media. They start, and I actually got this from a friend in the industry, but so I'm stealing his idea. But take the video, bring Firefly into, let's say, the Zoom meeting, record your video there, and then drop it in to have it slice out the right thing for you. It just cuts down your editing time. So again, thinking about client applications, yes, there's the marketing side, but if you can go deeper and help it to build that human-first interaction, you're really going to have a rich experience. The other thing that I was thinking about is, right, we talked about reskilling for your team, but what about reskilling for your clients? Right? This is something that they're going to be experiencing. If you're, working with anybody who's still in the workforce, they're going to have some pretty big fears themselves. And so helping them to change their mindset and see that there's opportunities for them to become, beginners in a new way. Everybody's going through this. Nobody is necessarily going to be absolved from the experience. So you have to think about what are they going to go through and how do you want to support them. So that's another thing that you can be thinking about on the client side. The other piece that I wanted to mention is diving deeper into your overall client experience. Has anybody used AI to upload your client persona and then go through the process of identifying new touch points? I know we all talk about wow moments or surprise and delight moments. Have you ever used it to help you generate ideas? Yeah? How does that work for you? Yeah. it sounds like it helps you to start the creative process, right? You don't have to use it exactly the way that it is, but it kickstarts some ideas. And again, it's Google on crack. It's amazing.
The good crack. The good crack. Not that crack, the other crack. I think also to that point, what'll be interesting when we get a little further down the field and we're all more comfortable with having these proprietary databases. I mean, right now, y'all store information on clients in the cloud, in a database. It's secure. You trust that service. Very soon, you'll have systems that will have ChatGPT-like functionality against that data. And they'll understand the client, and they'll be keeping track of a thing in a way that is very different from the humans, right? Because AIs won't forget. So they have all this information. And imagine when you have that system internally, you can talk to it and get advice and say, hey, I've got a call coming up with Lindsay. What's going on? It can look at her information, but it will also have APIs from news, from the London Stock Exchange, from Reuters, from Seeking Alpha, from all the services that you all use for information. It'll say, hey, there's something that happened right now in China, and I bet she's going to ask about it because she's interested in this, and we've talked about it before. So imagine when you cross the streams of your own secure data with what's out there and what's relevant with the expertise of your advisors and their teams. I think that's when we're going to really start to see some magic beyond people using this to generate emails.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got 4 minutes left. Did everybody get one of my business cards? We had a slide, but the slide only had the QR code on it, okay? So when you scan that QR code, Andrew and I came up with some best practices for getting started with using AI, as well as some prompts that you could be using to think a little bit more of that human first. How do we integrate this and not just think about our social media posts, but how do we truly leverage it as a trusted coach and consultant to help us support our business, okay? So if you scan that, feel free afterwards, stay on my email list because I'm not gonna spam you, but feel free to unsubscribe if that's important to you, okay? So Andrew, as we close out today, what would you say, I'm super curious, being that you, in my opinion, are one of the people that understands AI better than anyone that I know.
You need some new friends, by the way, but anyway.
Literally, you're my only AI friend. So, but I think very highly of you.
Thank you.
What is like the one thing, either what is the one tool that you're using that you're like, this is super cool, or what is the one tip that you think everybody needs to walk away with?
But if I tell them, I lose my advantage.
I know.
Okay.
I hear you.
So ChatGPT, super cool. I like something called Perplexity AI, perplexity.ai. You heard it here on the stage of Future Proof. Perplexity AI uses the GPT-4 model in the background, but it combines it with news and information. So you know how ChatGPT is the smartest thing in the world, but it doesn't know anything after that happened in the last 2 years? Isn't that kind of funny? Perplexity has live news and information. So you can say, hey, can you explain to me what's going on in Ukraine right now from this perspective? And it can do it. So it's really interesting. Perplexity AI, I think it's free and there's a premium. It also has something called Copilot, which lets it dig further. It lets it kind of start getting at some auto GPT functionality, which is awesome. You can also upload your own docs. You're like, hey, I got this PDF from my lawyer, and before I spend $1,000 an hour with this person, let's just talk through this contract, and it'll do a very good job of doing it.
I think that's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I never want to have to read an entire document ever again. Okay. Mine, I would say, is manage your mind. I know, super staying in theme with what we've been talking about already, but again, the best results that you can create for yourself are when you're paying attention to those tiny sentences inside of your brain. They wreak havoc. 70% of what we are thinking on a daily basis is negative, okay? So that's really important for us to know. It doesn't mean that those thoughts are wrong. We get to choose. We get to choose what it is that we want to believe. So when we say something in our brain like, this is going to be hard, I don't want to do it, it's going to take too long, whatever those simple sentences are, ask yourself the question, even if this is true, is it helpful? Because if it's causing you to feel a certain way, like overwhelmed or frustrated or confused, you're not going to take the action you need in order to get yourself the result. Okay? If there is anything that either one of us can do, again, you've got contact information, obviously. Please let us know. We were super excited to be here with you.
Thank you very much.